Again, we always start off by factoring, so if I factor the top, I'm going to get x and x minus 4 minus 1. Now, I don't want you to write the bottom yet. Okay, the bottom is 1 minus x. I don't want you to write the bottom yet because after I factor the top, I have an x minus 1 as my factor on the top, and I have a 1 minus x as my factor on the bottom. And you've seen this a number of times already where they're very similar, they're just switched. What did we do to make them the same? We factored out a negative. If I factor a negative out of 1 minus x, well, the negative would make the x positive and the negative would make the 1 negative. And the reason that's important is because now we have factors that are identical. And so these factors will simplify. So when I get to step 1, well, my non-permissible value is x can't equal 1. And that's going to be a whole at 1 comma something. Now, whenever you have a whole, to find the y-coordinate of the whole, what you need to use is your new equation. So if I simplify these away, what am I left with? Well, on the top, I still have x minus 4. And even though the factor goes away, what am I going to have left on the bottom? I still have that negative, so I have to have that over negative 1. Now, my question for you is, are you comfortable changing that to this? X minus 4 over negative 1 is negative x plus 4. Couple of different ways you could do that. Well, this is dividing by negative 1. That means the x has to be divided by negative 1 and the negative 4 is divided by negative 1. X divided by negative 1 is negative x. Negative 4 divided by negative 1 is positive 4. So that's one way that you could change that negative on the bottom into this equation. Another thing people like to do is they say, well, I'm just going to multiply top and bottom by negative 1. That will make the bottom become positive 1. Don't have to write it anymore. And on the top, if you had a negative 1 multiplied, you'd have to distribute, and that will give you negative x plus 4 as well. So where's our whole? Well, once we've simplified it, we now have negative x plus 4. And our whole is going to be at 1 comma, I just have to plug in my non-permissible value into my new equation, and I get my whole at 1 comma 3. Anytime you have a graph with a whole, you now graph your new equation that's in that blue box. And since that new equation is something you already know how to graph, it's a line. Okay? We're going to have a whole at 1 comma 3. How do I graph this line? Well, I know it has a y-intercept of 4, a slope of negative 1, down 1, over 1, down 1, over 1, down 1, over 1, down 1, over 1. Could label my x-intercept then as well. Just draw your straight line with a hole in it. In this one, we don't have to go through steps 2, 3, or 4 because after we simplified our equation and we got that new equation that's in that blue box, that's a graph. It's a line. You already know how to graph it. You just go ahead and graph it and add the whole. Okay, question number 3 for practice on this one.